Hello, and welcome to my qualitative screencast. The title of this concept and screencast for my course is Constellation and Reassembly through Textile Narratives. My intention for this course, as well as the screencast, is to focus on qualitative research within the archive centering textile objects that will include fashion and home goods. From or within historical archives, and that includes historic house museums. The learning objective for this course is to learn how to create qualitative constellations using an archive while centering textiles, and to practice this work through a series of case studies in multiple archives. Now, this form of research allows us as qualitative researchers working within an archive to practice focusing one object to formulate questions and answers to help unravel the information about the object that connect to other relating objects in the archive as a primary source and beyond as secondary sources. Now, while that's the overall objective for this course, for this screencast, the objective is for you to understand what a constellation is and the guiding questions to ask about the object while working in the archive. The foundational text for this course and the screencast comes from the book Exploring the Archives, a beginner's guide for qualitative research. Now, this book was written by Dr. Catherine Ralston and Kathleen Demarius. Now, most of this focus comes from, or most of this information comes from Chapter 5 in this book. Chapter 5 really sets up a framework for how we can create a constellation, as well as a reflection that follows the chapter from a student that's doing the work. Now, additionally, the reading archival work as qualitative sociology is paired with the book to help us consider how we may assemble or reassemble the archives around a certain topic. So this assembling and reassembling could include researching the object within the context that the museum or archive presents it, or removing it from that context to remove blind spots, to expand the research and see what information in the archive is missing. Now, from the position of someone working in the archive, learning what information is missing can help you begin to think about this collection's future, maybe what other research needs to be done, interviews, or objects need to be collected to help create a full story. Now, when we think about constellations, we kind of think about the second slide that I showed, right? So most of us think of constellations in the sky, this being a kind of connect the dots between shining celestial bodies. And they pretty much, connecting those dots creates a character or a story. Well, essentially, this is exactly what we're doing. But instead of it being stars, we're connecting the dots between textile objects and other objects in the archive and beyond to create that full story. Well, this is definitely one way to think about it, but, and of course, that's why it's called a constellation. But another way that you can visualize it is an evidence board or a map. And here you'd be connecting the dots between objects, documents, and photographs. So this image reference helps you to visualize the type of constellation that we're trying to build a little bit clearer using the archive. So, as we think about this work, I created a new visual to show how you might start to create your constellation according to Ralston and Demarius. At the center of your constellation is the textile object that you chose for research. From there, the yellow squares are your guiding questions that are from the book that help you begin your research and help you begin to think about your object. Now, branching out from there, I've created these blue rectangles that help you produce questions as you continue to research to think about what other objects within the archive as primary sources they are connected to or related to. Now, while I've provided the additional question in the blue rectangles for D and E, I want you to take a moment, maybe pause the screencast, and look at the guiding questions in the yellow squares for A, B, and C. Can you think of any questions that you might continue to ask that would lead you to other objects in the archive as primary sources? Now, as you continue to think about your research, consider the green boxes. And these represent the secondary sources or questions to lead you to those secondary sources. For instance, if we follow the guiding question E for a moment, we would think about, okay, who created the textile? Perhaps there's a label on it, maybe a tag where you can see the company or the creator. Or if that doesn't exist, you can Google image search it to find other objects and maybe find the creator. Now from there, you can check the archive for related objects that are by that same creator that now creates a constellation connection. Now, whether that answer is a yes or no, if there are more objects from that creator in the collection or not, you can still move on into the green box and think about maybe what other secondary sources exist beyond the archive, perhaps a newspaper article that's an advertisement for the object. Now, this visual that I've created is really a basic level starting place for your constellation. As you continue your research and you begin to grow looking at other objects within the archive that your textile object is related to, as well as secondary sources through publications, newspapers, magazines, other letters and journals, or other archives, you'll begin to see that your constellation lines may zigzag all across your board, and maybe not always coming directly from the center, but will begin to take you from additional objects to kind of create a path. Ultimately, all of these objects play a role in telling a bigger picture story and textile narrative for your object. Now, while this work may be done in a physical archive, like for instance, my example here, the TRR Cobb House, located right here in Athens, this work may also be done in a digital archive. So, one may take a museum as large as the Met in New York City, which has an extensive database of object images from different angles as well as descriptions. Now here in this reference image in the TRR Cobb House, and again, this is in downtown Athens, you may have passed it before, but here you can also see image references of rooms from within the house as well as objects, home goods, and fashion goods. And within their archive, they do have letters and journals and photographs and other documents that connect all the objects not only to each other, or but also to the historical site itself and the family that lived there during the 19th century. All of these documents and all of this information together and connecting those dots will create a fuller story and a full textile narrative. Thank you for taking the time to watch my screencast. I hope that you have a better understanding of constellation work and how it may be applied to object research within and beyond the archive. Bye.